Hey guys, it's Curious. And since I was in the kitchen, my messed up kitchen, I got the camera at the right angle where it won't be freaking too obvious. I'm just here breaking up my broccoli and stuff into little bits so I can throw it into my freaking microwave for freaking cooking. But I wanted to do a serious video for a second and talk about something that I talked about before about sex workers' rights. I made a really stupid video, and I wasn't being serious. I was just goofing off and stuff. Well, I wasn't really goofing off, but I was just putting it out as a stream of thought in the mood I was in at the time. And, that didn't really cut it. Because having looked into Love 149's charity work and stuff. And by the way, this is all about the $14,000 raised by, I just don't have an eidetic memory, and I should keep notes. ZJ. Alright, this is all about freaking, this is about, if you didn't know, this is about evangelicals hitching on to relief work organizations and proselytizing in third world countries and setting up Christian ideal of morality to escape from sex trafficking. Now, the antis or the radical feminists seem, or at least they're accused by the sex positive feminists, of supporting that. Well, and this is all to do with ZJ's girlfriend, and he's a guy, I guess, that's a cross-dresser, or maybe soon to be transsexual, pre-op transsexual. I really don't know. I haven't followed his videos that much, except when I first saw him, I thought he was a girl, and I don't know, kind of cute in a way. But anyway, now there's a big hoo-ha about all this and stuff. That just sort of came up when friggin' his girlfriend or her girlfriend, or I don't know, whatever, first came out as a radical femme or anti-pornography feminist. So okay, I'm mostly for the sex positive because I'm for small government, and my stance has altered from an authoritarian view, which I dislike, to a libertarian one, which is that I support deregulation on social issues. I figure, for me, it's a clean, it's an even bet. It's a fair shake between not wanting progressive statism and not wanting conservative statism. I don't want any freaking social engineering now. So you could almost say I'm anti-feminist, except have many ideas that support what pro-sex feminists say, because I support individualism without economic personhood, which means that I support individual liberties, but not the liberties that deny from economic conservatism, the hard right conservatism libertarians have. So, in that sense, since essentially individualism on social issues is essentially progressive, because it's, even though it's deregulated, it's also individualism. So you could say that pro-sex feminism is a libertarian aspect of feminism, even though it still has critical theory. And so I've come down to the conclusion that I support. See, I'm cutting up my things here and stuff. I cut up the stems too. I just cook them in with them, and they're pretty good. They're not actually that hard to eat. Um, I support freaking basically it came down to this. I was swayed. I was originally against gay marriage, and I'm still do not believe in homosexuality. But now I believe instead that it's probably a freaking hedge bet of what I want. But I believe that sex should be between consenting adults. And I don't want to get into the age of consent thing because I'm not a pedo and stuff. But I don't know about the whole age of consent thing. I'm just going to leave it at that because it's too friggin' hot button issue right now. Or ever, I don't know. I was a wild child. I was freaking having sex at 13. And I haven't had freaking since sex really much since I was a teenager. So what can I say? You know, glad I got it while I had it. but thinking back on my own life, uh, and as what I would say to myself as a parent now, I found many of my own experiences highly concerning. So now, when I'm thinking of sex positive feminism and basically my own view about it, I'm wondering how they really expect. Well, let's talk about them for a minute. How they really expect that to translate into areas where culturally and criminally and where the crime is ingrained in the culture by sexual slavery and indenturement, like the Philippines, like the Ukraine, like various areas in Europe that sex traffic children all along Asia. They can't touch freaking China, but it freaking happens there. It happens in Greece. It happens almost everywhere. In the freaking South America, you know, all these things happen. A child goes from freaking 13 to about 14 or 15, and if you're Catholic, if you're not getting married, you're freaking out there freaking, like if you're in Brazil, freaking getting in with the dancing trade and doing the La Bamba and freaking, making your way freaking as trading sex, basically. I don't want to sound like freaking, yay for pedos, but the fucking whole world's like that shit. But in our Western world, we take these freaking issues and we take internationalism from it and we look at freaking things and it's almost like freaking white liberal privilege. And I mean, not should say white, but Western liberal privilege. Because we look at these conditions that these people go through and we say to them, oh, okay, this is so horrible, this is so wrong. And mostly it's done by Christianity, but it's also done by the progressive left, too, that are internationalists. That like to feel good and shovel money and say how great we are, that we're freaking stopping freaking child, things in the Philippines and freaking Ukraine and stuff. But, you know, George Bush went to war because of oil. And I've had a large contention with that because that's basically I think it's, there's four things. Four political philosophies. I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, but there's Hamiltonian, Wilsonian, Jacksonian, and one other. I can't remember, but they're basically different aspects of foreign policy and how people go to war, or why the U.S. does anyway. And basically, the war on terror equates very much to a Hamiltonian or economic war on terror. And the currency of the world that depends on mechanized infrastructure which fuels the world economy and internationalism is oil because it's mechanized power. It's the cheapest thing that can be stable. There's a reason we're dependent upon oil. And that's because it's the cheapest thing that can be traded, stored, used for energy, and doesn't require an infrastructure or depreciate, except on supply and um, demand. And if you understand that, and you understand scarcity, then you begin to understand how other forms of resources and trade, like sex trafficking, that freaking ships freaking volumes of people who are economically less prosperous to areas where there is more prosperity, and how the freaking they are victimized. But now, I tried to freaking hit on this earlier, but I'm just like, okay, let's say we got Odessa. It's a mafia, Russian mafia controlled port of sexual slavery for Ukraine girls. It happens in the US, it happens all over the world. Okay? How is a sex positive worker going? I always say going and stuff like that wrong, but how are they going to elicit change? If I had my way, I wouldn't war for oil. I would freaking gather up I would have a representative tax structure in the United States, and once we had enough money, pay as you go kind of thing, and we would retool the war on terror to freaking do some of this internationalist work, and I would strike freaking Odessa. Boom! And I would freaking hit the Philippines, and I would, okay, I'm freaking chicken friggin' little. I would friggin' hit everybody. I'm friggin' Teddy up San Juan Hill. Okay, that's not too realistic. I understand in a post-nuclear age. And even then, you can't sustain it at all and stuff. And it would just cause destability and yada, yada, yada. And the fucking world fucking fucks off. Okay, no. I'm going to make this a real video. I'm not going to go off into a rant or freaking irresponsible talking on this. Because I'm serious, The world is the way it is. I have to accept that it's an international post-nuclear uh, uh, post-atomic information age, computer age world. Okay. Okay, now we can accept that the Christian thing is pretty much a failure. We can accept that the frigging radical feminist thing is pretty much a failure at dealing with an culturally ingrained freaking form of human trafficking. And that's all it is, really. Do you know in Afghanistan, they freaking kidnap people and then they freaking have them buy back their children for loans from opium? And it's like, this is pretty much the practice in some way sexually, because Islam isn't there in other areas of Asia. And then in Europe, it's just, I don't know. I don't know what's with Europe. They're not supposed to be like that, but, they're supposed to be Western, but you got such a strong mafia presence that, and I guess not the freaking same religious values. They're Eastern Orthodox Christian instead of like Western Catholic. So and the mob, but the mob doesn't do prostitutes, and the same thing in Poland. and other places, and everywhere. Mexico. I mean, the streets of America, for Christ's sakes and stuff. How, and that's just what I can't get over, is how you're going to freaking socially, how you're going to make an effort to conscious, do enough socially progressive consciousness raising to get past the graph of, is graph the right word, of these cultural and criminal organizations that just accept this kind of thing as a rotten way of life that it is. It's only from the puritanical right that these things are stopped. You know what I mean? I mean, the Pat Boones and the friggin', what's her name? I want to say friggin', Sarah Palin's, the people that friggin' got the friggin' God in their eyes are the only ones that friggin' are so puritanical that this kind of thing doesn't happen. You can't get a straight answer from a sex advocate worker of what's the proper age of consent. It gets real friggin' murky and fuzzy, and I hate to be critical, but really, you get this little, oh, he's a pedo, but then friggin', when it's a gay issue, it's like, you could have friggin' the guy from Glee on the cover of friggin' of Rolling Stone and a bunch of friggin' men standing around. But what if that was one of those little girls? Or one of those actresses that pretends to be a little girl who, I don't know what age she is. Like the little big nose girl, the little cheerleader, What if they were sitting in that bar and straight men, 30s and 40s, were sitting there looking at her? That would be an outrageous thing of pedophilia. There would be a friggin' uproar about that. And yet, we're supposed to have, sex workers' rights to make things better. But yet, there's children on the street that are freaking, that you're supposed to, that are sex workers. And it's just like a problem that, you can't realistically stop. You can only be draconian about it. Do you see what I'm trying to say? I'm trying to say that there's a cognitive dissonance in this, and I'm trying to ask hard questions without freaking attacking it per se. But I mean, I said in the last video, I said at the end, I said something really stupid like, oh, GWB, George W. Bush, what's your solution? What's your solution? But yes, that always stuck with me, is that, when he was being criticized and criticized and criticized, it's like, yes, what is your solution? At least dare a solution. I won't dare. I'll admit it right now. I will not dare. I've said things in comment sections and freaking, I think even because of my videos, that I wouldn't dare to repeat in this context. No, I can't even say. I won't, because it's too dangerous on YouTube. If I said something, freaking, I could get freaking lambasted for it. So many things I say, nobody pays attention, but one day they might, and freaking that might be it, the powder keg that blows me to hell, And it's like, it is important, Mormons marry 13-year-olds, because God told them to, but freaking, sex workers run around in the street and it gets better, I mean, come on, how is it going to get better unless we can freaking really freaking address these issues? And if you want sexual freedom, you're going to have to accept that you're going to have accept some deregulation. Now, it might not be socially progressive what you want. It might not be socially conservative what you want. It might be anti-statist, you know. And okay, I would definitely say having the experience of a wild child and seeing all I've seen, including freaking kids 13 to 16 that I knew, girls that I was running around with, selling favors to older men. Not something I'm interested in, but something I've seen personally. Something that would terrify any parent and stuff. Uh, that, you know, uh, I don't know. I mean, I forgot where I was with that. All those memories, it's like, and it's like these issues are just like maddening because it's like, uh, I'm sorry. I just have to quit because I lost my train of thought. And it's like, okay, we want to stop it. Oh, yeah. I'm up for anyone who's a consenting adult. And frankly, I think whatever age that should be, we should have that to be the age of consent. Maybe we need to lower the legal age of adulthood from 18 to 16. 16-year-olds can drive cars. Sweet 16 is supposed to be the age. Maybe 18 is too old. I don't know. Maybe they freaking kids should go to college after 16. 15, 14, 13? No, right? Right. But I worked in a department store and they hired people as young as freaking 15 and stuff. And freaking, I knew people who freaking young adults who freaking had their own apartment, were balancing the things, were going to college, and freaking, and some of them were even having kids. Heck, I freaking used to live across from a school and I see friggin' kids that look like kids pushing strollers. And they're Hispanic and it's just like normal, because I guess the Catholic influence in it where, you friggin' get married at a young age and you just friggin' have kids and that's it. You know? So I don't know. I guess 15 in Hispanic culture and you're friggin' an adult. You know? I guess. I think that's right, the way it is. So, really, you know, um, we're worried so much about what's going on all over the world and here, and yet we don't even address clearly what we want culturally to happen in our own society. It's multicultural, and it's like, well, we want this, we want that, and it's like freaking a vat full of chemicals instead of a melting pot. It's like you're trying to make ice cream in freaking bean soup. It doesn't make sense. The recipe does not work. And then you throw in a freaking casserole. I mean, I'm not trying to ramble, but I am trying to be serious and make a serious video here. And it's like, you need. I'm not against multi ethnic culture. But I mean, yeah, multi ethnic society. But you need a cultural consensus to freaking stop the freaking partisan wars. And I think a freaking some type of antitrust freaking an electable freaking multiple parties instead of a two-party system too. You know, a fusion like government, like instant runoff voting or something. I don't know. I'd say freaking 13 and freaking you're a legal adult, but I don't want to say that because I don't want freaking people to think I'm sexually interested in a 13-year-old because I'm not. And there it is. You know what I mean? I mean, what do you say to things like that? I mean, it's like we're not made right. We fit one way, we don't fit another way. I guess because people grow like any other organic thing. And some mature later and some mature sooner. And All the laws are just arbitrary to fit the best possible freaking demographic of people who all change at different rates and different aspects. So there it is. But then that really makes me wonder if we're not just fooling ourselves about like these egalitarian efforts of social progressiveness, because it seems like a frigging cultural mirage. If you really understand what I mean. And I mean, yeah, it's good to create a condition, but are we freaking expending so much infrastructure to freaking, you know, to freaking help the poor freaking, you know, person in that country from being trafficked, that we're not seeing the real issue? A mass cognitive dissonance, cultural cognitive dissonance that we cannot face because we cannot see it as it truly is. Or I'm just completely deranged, deluded, and freaking, need some different medications. I really don't know, to be honest with you anymore. I'll be just straight fucking honest about that and stuff. Because what seems to make sense to other people and freaking just does not make one damn bit of sense to me. And I'll be damned if I have a solution either. But I do have freaking 10 million questions of all these people who freaking say, they're so intelligent. Why they're freaking... why their intelligence doesn't make any damn sense when you really clearly look at it in relation to everything else about it. Of all the lines of freaking connections, it all looks like a tangled mess. Can you make any sense out of that? Really, what should we do about that? Should we send the army in with the friggin' relief workers? That'd be my solution. You need to be free. Friggin', I think we should straighten up our own country first. And we should set our own consensus. And we should get our own damn house in order. And then we should figure out what we should want. And then we should go on and decide if we should impose it upon anyone else at all. Because I'm not really sure we should. Maybe we need a freaking steal from Star Trek, and excuse me, once you say Star Trek, the freaking rational conversation's over, but maybe America needs a prime directive. And to freaking get our own house in order before we worry about anyone else, economically or socially. That's pretty much why I'm against all internationalism, to be honest. Because I think we're wasting so much energy that we're causing economic, global, environmental, and political instability all around the world. And I just don't mean from military, but I also mean from friggin' progressive, friggin' internationalism. I know that makes me some kind of nativist, but it's true. I'd like to see a society that functioned like some of these so-called countries that friggin' get it right. But I wouldn't want to see it as a friggin' socialist country exclusively either. I'd like to see some American standards, and that includes sane capitalism. Whatever that would be. Enough. Alright. That's it. I'm doing my broccoli. And I hope that was a little bit more rational about frigging sex workers' rights and frigging international relief from sex trafficking. How does that work? Sex workers' rights version of international relief from trafficking. How would that organization work? I want to know. I cut them up, and when they freeze, I can just grab a couple and just throw it in the pot. And that's how I get my freaking veggies with my freaking rice and my taters and butter and all this stuff I mixed up, onion powder and uh, garlic powder and roast seasoning and seasoned all. And I threw in a can of pepper too. I found out that's the secret for freaking ramen. You know, they just add the freaking ginger for shrimp and uh, cayenne pepper for hot and something else for chicken. Oh, chicken bouillon, like the chicken stuff. I forgot what that one was, but for chicken, yeah, basically chicken bouillon. You know. So yeah, really, how you gonna do it? You know, what's your solution? I mean, I don't know. Okay, thank you. Please don't be upset. Please nobody friggin' raise a bitch. And I hope this friggin' helps anybody who friggin' or friggin' I don't know. I just hope it helps me.